Welcome to the Business Growth Spotlight, where we shine the light and talk with business leaders from all over the world to share their insight and expertise so we can all grow together. I'm your host, Heidi Schalk, and the co-founder of the Spotlight to Scale Accelerator, where we help businesses drive revenue by making sure that they're seen as the authority and expert in their industry versus just another product or service. And today I am joined by Jay Hurt with Academy of Creative Coaching. And we've been chatting behind the scenes. I'm excited to dive into this conversation. So welcome, Jay, to the show.
Thank you for having me, Heidi. I appreciate it. I'm excited about our conversation.
I'm excited as well. So can you kick us off, Jay, with letting us know a little bit about you, your company, and the role that you play within it?
Absolutely. So again, my name is Jay Hurt. I am the Chief Operating Officer of the Academy of Creative Coaching. We are an ICF, which is the International Coaching Federation, credentialed, or I should say accredited coach training company. We've been around now for a little bit over 10 years, moving into our 11th year. And so not only do we work in the coach training space, but we train around other things, right? Like human dignity and helping to build your coaching business. We do trainings around things like conflict resolution and lots of other things that are kind of coaching adjacent. So we do lots of work in this space. Our owner and founder is Dr. Pamela Larday. She is the director of coaching for the Harvard Institute, the director of education for the Harvard Institute of Coaching. And she is well versed in the coaching business as well. We've been friends for a long time. She brought me on her team about 6 years ago, and we've been running ever since.
Can you share with us what inspired you to join?
Absolutely. So I had been through a coach training back in 2011, and it was great. I loved it, got into the coaching space, and it just feels like my wheelhouse, right? Having those conversations, helping people kind of walk alongside their journey and understanding that they're the expert of their own lives, like that's my jam, right? So I moved from Nashville, Tennessee to Atlanta and moved to Atlanta, got to know Dr. Pam a bit, and I went through her coach training class and it was like so inspiring, right? It was amazing talking about some of the things that we didn't talk about in the prior class, like understanding bias, cross-cultural competency, conflict management, and just going through some of these things that layered on top of coaching. I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. So I went to Dr. Pam. I said, hey, we can take this to another level. Like there are some things I bring from my business background, 17 years of sales expertise, 5 or so years in the operations space as well. We can really take this to another level. So we got together, we started working on it. I came to the team, and here we are 5.5 years later.
Amazing. And I'm interested because creative coaching you talk about. So what is creative coaching and how does it differ from traditional coaching and why is it so effective for business leaders?
That's a great question, Heidi. So I get that question often. What is creative coaching? So when we think of coaching, we think of the normal things, right? The usual suspects, life coaching, executive coaching, health and wellness coaching, career coaching. So
Right.
what is creative coaching? Creative coaching is bringing your creative brain to the coaching conversation. And that could be multifaceted, right? So for example, we've had people come through our program that are not off the beaten path. So I know we've had a pastor come through our program that wanted to be a better coach to his parishioners, right? He wanted to understand them better and walk the journey with them better. We had a coach now that was a hairstylist. And instead of wanting to hang a shingle, she just wanted to be able to connect to the ladies in her chair better and still talk to her periodically. And it's just amazing, amazing results. And then there are the people that are in kind of this pseudo coaching space, like agile coaches. And then there are people that are relationship coaches and they want to grow their ability and really have a little bit more teeth in what they do, right? So the creative piece is really just enhancing what we already do and thinking about how can we bring a truly creative lens to what it is we already do and what it is we're already passionate about. So a couple other thoughts, people do things like retreats and mindfulness sessions. We had a session that we had called Mindfulness Cafe, where we have people come on and talk about what that looks like and how that relates to coaching. Inside of our training, sometimes we'll do things like mindfulness exercises. So it's just a plethora of understanding that there are there are boundaries inside what the ICF requires, but at the same time, there's a lot of freedom and space in coaching that we allow for our students to learn and grow in.
So I have two questions from that. One is, and it's going to be separated, but you just mentioned ICF. So what does being part of ICF mean? Because not all coaches are part of ICF. And what is the benefit for your clients for you being part of ICF? Because you said there's some parameters there. And my other question is, before I forget it, I'm super intrigued by the fact that you have a hairstylist that came to you because they do coach
Mhm.
us. Like we sit in the chair, they ask us questions, and for some reason we feel compelled, especially as women, to spill all of our guts about what's happening in our world. And they do the same for us, if you once you get close to your hairstylist. But then it brought me to the fact of bartenders. So,
Hmm.
people talk to their bartenders and bartenders coach their people. So I'm curious to know, like, who is your ideal client? Do you have a specific, because you hear about we need a niche down, right? Are you niched in how you serve people, or are you niched in a specific type of person that you actually work with and coach? So that I know I threw two questions at you, but I just didn't want to forget them. So I'm curious on the ICF side, and we can separate that. I'm more curious about the whole, you know, hairstylist thing because I want to know who you work with specifically, especially for our listeners who are like, oh my gosh, this is incredible, and I want to learn more about Jay, but I want to make sure that I'm a fit.
So let's start there. So we work with all types of folks from many different industries, right? We have people that are in the federal government, and we have folks that are executive coaches, life coaches, as I mentioned before, health and wellness, spiritual coaches. We had a yoga instructor that wanted to be a coach to other yoga instructors, right? To coach them on growing their businesses. And there are lots of other things. I'll try to think of some of those as we go along. But so to kind of address that question, you talked about niching down. So we have something called specializations inside of our program. And it's important, we believe, to niche down for a couple of reasons. One is you already have a set of expertise and you have a network, right? So take advantage of that network. You can get clients from your network, and you also have a level of expertise in whatever it is that you're passionate about and that you're really good at. Like the thing that you would do if nobody paid you to do it and you're good at it. People are like, well, Heidi does this. I need Heidi to do this. So you want to take advantage of that. The second reason is around that niche, you can become an expert in that niche. And when you become the expert in that niche, you become the go-to person, right? So, we can think of folks like Jay Shetty, kind of go-to for spiritual groundedness, right? Gosh, John Maxwell, kind of go-to for wisdom and things like that, right? Tony Robbins, the go-to for inspiration. You can niche down and find whatever space it is that you're in, become that true subject matter expert, and even beyond the subject matter expert, right? The person that is the foremost, the person that you think of first when you think about that area. So when you do that, there's more opportunity, and instead of you looking for clients, clients are looking for you. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing, you mentioned the ICF. So the ICF, the International Coaching Federation, is the largest accrediting body of coaches in the world. They have over 96,000 coaches that have been accredited, right? And so when you talk about the idea that there are lots of coaches out there that are not accredited or been through the ICF or any of the other accrediting bodies, that's true. But that said, the ICF has some standards, right? They have some guidelines, ethics. You have to have a certain amount of hours to complete the program. There are several steps that you have to do. You have to recertify every 3 years. So there's a level of legitimacy that you get with the ICF. There's also the opportunity to work with other companies, right? So when other companies are looking for coaches, as we've seen the industry grow, and the average Fortune 1000 company has coaches in their company, they're looking for ICF credentialed coaches, right, at a certain level. So we provide that space. And then the one other thing I'd say about the ICF coaches is the skill set, right? Well, it's like I used to say, I used to talk to my friends about when I was a kid. I didn't necessarily care about my grades, even though I made good grades, but I cared about the skill. I cared about what I was learning and how I could apply the knowledge. So when you go through an ICF accredited program, you get skills and knowledge that you don't get anywhere else. And that's kind of our differentiator as a ICF organization.
Amazing. Thank you for clarifying that and sharing that all with us. How you talk about an operations leader? So why is an operations leader important for a small business?
I get passionate about this one, Heidi. Operations leaders are important for a small business for a few reasons. One reason is we want the CEO, we want the leader, the president to have the space to be able to think on a visionary level, to do the things to work outside of the business. Operations can manage all of the things as we're growing to make sure that all the pieces are getting taken care of and addressed. If you've got one person that's managing the vision, leading the organization, being the face of the organization, right? As we would say in sports, the face of the franchise. And then that person is also doing all of the daily work. They're checking in on emails, they're checking with sales to see what's happening, they're checking with marketing to see what's happening. They're managing social media. It's too much. And they get scattered, and then nothing really gets done. So when you got somebody in operations that's making sure all of the pieces are getting addressed, it makes it so much easier and you grow so much faster. So having a COO or having an operations leader at any level, I think, is imperative to growth. It's just it's a non-starter not to have one in my opinion.
I agree with you because I have to share with you. I am like the more creative, I'll be like, woo, like the shiny object syndrome person in our business. And Lectra is more of the, keep me on task type of person. And I
Yeah.
think it's very important to have both because you need both. It's a healthy balance. You can't have somebody that's so task oriented and because that's too perfectionism, right? We got to have the creative to like just say, let's go with it. Messy gets to be fun. Like, let's lean in imperfectionism. But also, you need that person that's going to stabilize the other person to keep them on track. So, can you share with us what key qualities should business owners look for in a operations leader?
Ooh, that's a good question. So the first thing I think is someone who's good and adept and enjoys herding cats, right? So you want someone that has the ability to be somewhat of a generalist. They have specialist qualities, but they're somewhat of a generalist because they'll need to manage the sales team and make sure that the script is being developed properly, the team is making the right calls, we're touching the right people. They'll work with the advertising and marketing team. Okay, what things are going out? Who are we touching today? How many touches do we have? Social media team, same thing, right? So whatever that looks like, whether you're in a product-based business or a service-based business, you need someone that can see from a 30,000-foot level, but can have conversations with the person that's on the front lines to make sure things get done. So I think the quality of a generalist with the ability to be a specialist is first and foremost. And the second one is I think it's really important to be able to relate to people. So often, I think these days I hear a lot of people say that they're not people persons, not people. But I think it's important to be a people person. So you want to find ways to connect. You want to find ways to relate. These folks need to trust you, right? So we have a team. I think right now it's about 19. So everyone essentially reports to me except for my CEO. So I need to have a connection with everyone. Now there are leaders in the hierarchy of the company, but I need to be able to have a connection with everyone. I need to be able to have a conversation, have a tough conversation, a crucial conversation, as we might say, and still be able to be relatable, get my point across, get things done. And at the end of the day, we're able to work together and enjoy this experience together. And then the final thing I would say is as an operations leader, so the CEO is building the vision. I often say this. The CEO creates the vision top down. The company implements the vision from the bottom up. So the
Oh.
operations leader needs to make sure that that culture is being implemented, that vision is being implemented. So if they're doing those three things, I think that's a great start when you're looking for an operations leader, and then you can work through the nuances as you move forward.
And this wasn't part of my questions, but just you just
Okay.
opened this door up for me because it's important when you're building a business. And for those of you who are listening who might be in the more beginning stages, like Jay, there's 19 people, right, Jay? So some people, there might be some businesses listening. They have anywhere between maybe 5 or 10 or 12. They're not at 19 yet, but like it's so important that your team, in order to execute the vision, is on board with that vision, right, Jay? And
Yes.
it starts with you. You went to your leader, your CEO, and you said, I know I can bring this to the table. But in order to do that, you had to be on board with her vision. How important is that when you're building a team?
Gosh, Heidi, that's incredibly important. That's where it all starts, right? So I think the operations leader has to be the one that can carry out the conversation of the vision and delivering the message of the vision to the team, right? Because again, you don't really want the CEO getting in the weeds where that's not necessary. So if we can find ways to take that vision, for example, something that we've done in our organization is really strive to work on human dignity work, right? Trying to make sure that people feel comfortable in the coaching space. So when I'm having conversations with my team, it's important that my team understands, okay, it's important that we show how much we care about the trainees that we work with, that will be ultimately be coaches out in the world, so that they can show how much they care for their clients, and then they'll get great results. So ultimately, whatever that vision looks like, I think your operations leader has to be able to agree with that vision, support the vision, and then deliver the message of the vision.
Because it's all a ripple effect, right? Everything
Yes.
that you create internally with your in your company and with your team is what's going to be exuded out into the world. And at the end of the day, in order to keep a business going, we need that revenue. In order to
Mhm.
create that revenue, we need our team executing, and they're going to be able to create be bringing in your ideal clients and your dream clients when they're living in their dream job and they're happy where they are and they're thriving. They're going to bring in those that same people. They're going to create that energy and attract those people. So and that stems from the operations leader. So
Mhm.
at what stage should a small business be investing in operational leadership, and how can it drive long-term success, Jay?
So I think a small business, your second hire should be an operations leader, in
Okay.
my opinion. And again, that person is a generalist, right? So if you're the first in command and you got a generalist and they understand, for example, when we think about a business, you can't grow and you can't thrive and you can't sustain business at all if you don't have any revenue. So that
Right.
person needs to know how to build out a sales team or sell themselves, right? I had a 17-year selling background. I was able to jump into a good part of that role as we built out our sales team. So, whatever the things that you need, that person needs to be able to fill those holes, right? Kind of,
Right.
I would say stop the bleeding, but sometimes you haven't even went that far to get started bleeding. So they need to make sure that those things are running the way they need to run, and then you'll be able to start to run much smoother and much faster quickly.
Okay. Can we pivot a little bit into growth
Sure.
now, Jay?
Mhm.
Because I want to share with you've been in business for years now. You have a team
Mhm.
of 19. So you've grown and you've experienced the ups and downs of that, and the pluses and minus, pros and cons of the growth, and the pains and the rewards of that journey. So what have you seen are the key factors that lead to exponential business growth?
So I think there are three things that are really important in exponential business growth. And I'll tell you that in my first 8 months with the company, I think we grew 3,560%. But who's counting?
Wow.
So
To be counting.
so we
Good.
grew a lot,
Yeah.
and we've continued to sustain that. COVID, there have been ups and downs through that, but I think the important thing is that we make sure to do three keys that I learned a long time ago, and I try to stick to these. The first one is when you come into an organization and you're trying to get things stabilized and now moving forward, right? Because we're talking about growth, fill in the gaps. So anything that is not being addressed that is urgent, put all the other stuff on the back burner, right? For example, when I came to our team, we were missing sales calls. Unacceptable. Like, we can't do that. So we've got to get to that call. We don't want to miss a call if possible, and we definitely want to get back to them as typically in less than 24 hours. But my goal is for our team to answer every single call. Like, I don't want us to miss one call. So fill in those gaps. And that changed when we did that, Heidi, it changed things dramatically overnight, right? Some other gaps, there were some things that were on the web that were incorrect that we needed to address, right? How can they contact us? How can they get a hold of us? How can they order? How can they purchase? How can they make payments, right? If there's a payment option. So anything that's keeping someone from filling up that revenue line with you, take care of that immediately. Fill in the gaps. It'll make a world of difference, right? There's so many things that fall through. The second thing I think that's incredibly important, this takes a little time, but create the best experience. People don't remember what you say. People remember how you made them feel. The great Maya Angelou quote. So create the experience that is going to just resonate with them. And often, Heidi, we see that even with the work we do, we want to deliver the best coach training possible or whatever training it is that we're delivering. But at the same time, often people enjoy the experience even more than they do the coach training. And when they go tell someone about the academy, they talk about, Jay and Dr. Pam and the team. They were just, they made sure we got onboarded. They did all the things that were necessary. And all they talk about is the things that we did outside of the actual training. And when they talk about the training, then it's just, hopefully we blow them out of the water. So create the best experience possible. Incredibly important. And then the final thing, and this is kind of a little off the beaten path, but I think for those who may not have thought of this or addressed this, this is something I think is really important to consider. When you're selling, learn your customer, right? Know your customer, KYC, know your customer. Learn all of their objections and address each of their objections in your sales script. When you
Yeah.
address their objections in your sales script, by the time you get to the end of the call, and you say, "Hey, Heidi, I appreciate your patience as I walk through this. What questions do you have for me?" Well, often, especially in our field where we're kind of high ticket, a customer may have 20 questions. I've had customers have 30 questions for me, right? And I've addressed them all. Well, Jay, you addressed every question. Wow, I appreciate that. You were so thorough. Okay. Anything, what else? And make sure to cover other bases. But if you objections, um, the customer feels like you not only know your business, but you already know how they feel and what their concerns are. And now they feel like you're connected. So that's
Yeah.
incredibly important. Create a connection with a cold or warm lead. So those are the three things I think really help exponential growth.
That was completely amazing because it's so true. And I couldn't agree with you more. When you're overcoming those objections before they ever come out, now you're ahead of the eight ball, and they feel heard. They feel
Yes.
seen, they feel heard. And when your potential client feels that way, you're making it a no-brainer. And I've always said, make your offer a no-brainer. But part of that offer of being a no-brainer, like you shared, you're high ticket. It's not about the price. That's not the
Right.
no-brainer in it. The no-brainer in it is really understanding your client better than they understand themselves. And they're seeing that you understand them and know them better than they know and understand themselves. They know they have this problem. If they didn't know they had the problem, they wouldn't be coming to you, right? But at the same time, when people come to us for support, and no matter what industry you're in, you're solving a problem. Whether you're selling a widget or you're selling a service, you're solving a problem. And when you understand your client and your person that you're talking to better than they understand themselves, and you're already overcoming all their objections, they're like, "My gosh, like nobody's understood me like this. Of course I need to be here." And that comes with spending time testing and watching your numbers and knowing your data. And it sounds like, Jay, you guys know that better than anyone. So
Absolutely.
that's yeah, yeah.
Appreciate that. And hey, just one little quick follow on to that. Like you said, with the testing piece, write down those objections. Learn those objections, write them down, find the common ones, find the uncommon ones, right? Because ultimately, this winds up feeling like the first thing I said, filling in the gaps. So now you start to fill in the gaps to how the customer's thinking. And now the customer is like, oh my gosh, they get me. Like you said, they feel heard.
Yeah, and you can only fill in those gaps by getting the information, paying attention to it, listening, learning, and
Mhm.
tweaking along the way. And Jay, you're still testing. You've been doing this for how many years? And 19 people. And I'm sure your growth depends on you keep testing, you keep learning, and you keep tweaking. It never ends. The moment
Right.
that we stop is the moment that we can prepare to close the doors, right? And we don't want to do
Absolutely.
that. So that's something that's never going to end when it comes to business. And I think that's a missing piece in the coaching space. I know I'm a coach. I've been coaching female entrepreneurs, and now we've moved into agency. We also have a B2B piece because we filled a gap. We learned that there's a lot of tech that's missing and that they don't know how to do or want to do. So we filled that gap. But it comes from listening and evolving. And sometimes where you are now and where you start is not necessarily where you're going to be in 2 years, 5 years, or 10 years. And it could be where you are, but I'm sure your business isn't the same as it was 11 years ago.
Oh no, 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 not at all. It's definitely different. It's constantly changing and evolving. We are literally iterating and reiterating about every 3 to 6 months. So
Yeah.
it's a constant change, thinking about buzzwords and keywords and what's the market bearing and what are the changes that we see on the horizon that we can jump to now and get ahead of the curve. So we're doing that literally. We're processing it, I'd say, daily to try to make these changes every 3 to 6 months.
Yeah. So I have a question for you. What has been over the period of years that you've been in business now, and you've joined her pretty much almost from the beginning, close to the
Mhm.
beginning, and you've grown the business now from coming on board. So what has been some of the challenges you've seen? You don't have to tell us all of them, maybe one that you've seen in your growth, and how did you overcome it?
That's a great question. So challenges to our growth. One challenge, and most businesses will go through this at some point, is being underfunded, right?
Okay.
So anytime you can find ways to be funded outside of quote unquote bootstrapping, it's going to be a win, right? So find ways to make sure that there is a path that will create opportunities of growth because the thing about a small business is when we're building our business, it's easy to grow our business. And I was in the tech space as well, right? So I kind of have this parallel understanding. Like growing Dell, which is one of the companies I work for, versus growing a 19-person business looks differently. But at the same time, it's easy to think about, okay, I've got the revenue and I've got the line items to cover everything I need, and I've got a little bit of margin. But how do I iterate for the next step? And when I'm at a Dell and I talk about starting this new thing with the team, and I say, okay, hey, we need, this is a $5 million project, and I go to my leaders and we talk about what that looks like. Okay, they've got funding coming from other places. It's not there's money coming from other buckets. There's money coming from other places, money coming from the stock market. So the same thing for a small business. When you start to grow, often, and you've probably, ran across this, Heidi, sometimes growth can be a killer, like you can outgrow yourself. So just using growth to fund iterating is challenging. So you want funds that help you move the needle forward. So that's one thing. And then the second thing I think that's been one of our biggest challenges was just managing the transition into the B2B space. So we were B2C for about 6 years. And as I
Okay.
came on board, we started to transition into the B2B space. So now selling to B2B is a totally different animal. So
Yes.
if you have something that's B2C and now you're going B2B and then you want to take another layer. So now you're going B2B, but then you're going small, medium, large business, you're going state, local, federal government, you're going nonprofit, then you start thinking about it's an entirely different sales script, it's an entirely different marketing plan, entirely different funnels, um, a lot of different networking, different types of events, a different type of person that sells in B2C versus B2B. So that was a bit of a challenge. It's been a blessing now more than a challenge. But initially it was definitely a challenge. And I think those are some of the growing pains that we go through.
Yeah, and there's learning curves, and we just have to
Yes.
embrace them. And I think that's like one of the biggest, things that I'm getting in the takeaway is no matter where you're at in your business, embrace the learning curves and know
Mhm.
that it's getting you to the next step of where you're headed and just be open to evolving and growing, just that like you all have. You went from B2C to B2B. That's a big pivot. And I agree, there's a big learning curve there because we've gone through it as well. So marketing, how are you all finding your clients? Like what is working for you? Is there something that's maybe worked for you in the past and then it stopped working and you're like, okay, in 2025, this has really been something that's been consistent, or we learned in 2024, this is a new strategy that's really worked for us. We're doubling down on this in 2025. So anything that you've tried that's like doesn't necessarily work for it doesn't really work for us as far as marketing goes, and then something that maybe is like, you know what, we're making this happen in 2025.
For sure. For us, Facebook ads were really helpful back in the early part of the decade, right?
Right.
But at some point, Facebook ads for us, our customer just wasn't there, right? We didn't see the customer. We didn't see even in retargeting, right? We just didn't see like a customer extension. So what's really worked, I should say, excuse me, for us is LinkedIn, posting on LinkedIn, Instagram to a certain extent, and a lot, well, two things. One is a lot of word of mouth that really works in our industry, And then also in our case, and this is something that folks out there might consider, is leveraging the associations that you're a part of. So, for example, we have this relationship with the ICF, so we leverage that relationship. And then the ICF has chapters in every state and most of the large cities, multiple chapters. So we leverage those relationships. We leverage the relationships with other coaches in the space, right? We leverage the relationship with folks that have come through our program, and then they're inside of an organization. And now we're able to use that network inside the organization to build coaching programs for organizations. So we've done it a little bit differently, I think. I think everybody has kind of their own niche, but as we transition to a little bit more to B2B, it looks a little bit more like a B2B curve when you talk about LinkedIn and you talk about using the power of professional networks and things like that.
Yeah, and I love this podcast, and I'm grateful for you to be on here and all the guests because I'm hearing different things from different people, which is fantastic. If everybody was saying the same thing, we wouldn't need this show. I'd just be like, well, this is what we're hearing. Go do it. The one thing I will say that I'm hearing across the board, partnerships, relationships, collaboration, connection, like that is just whether you're B2C or B2B. That's where, your network matters. Your network is your
Absolutely.
network. That's something that you do need to double down on. It's if it's not part of your strategy in 2025 for your marketing, go back to yesterday and make that happen. But there's also some other things. And for you, LinkedIn has been something that's worked. For other people I've talked to, that has been something that's dwindled for them. So it's really interesting to hear different perspectives from different people. And depending on you're coming from B2C, so you probably still get a lot of, some leverage from Instagram, which is great because you had that maybe in the past, and that's why Instagram, and we've had that too. Like we're still on we're still on Instagram and Facebook, but we have really doubled down on LinkedIn and on podcasting because
Right.
podcasting is a platform that's growing, and we know that, and it's definitely done wonders for us. So that's another area that we're doubling down on. So I appreciate your input on that. If I was able to say here, Jay, here's a magic wand, if you can go poof on any issue that you're having right now, and one thing that you could take care of and just make disappear, what would that be in the company or in the business right now?
So if I can make any issue disappear, I think that issue would be connecting with decision makers who are in charge of the purse strings. Because I'm
Mm,
learning more and more that there are decision makers and there's somebody in charge of the purse strings, and they're different people
yeah.
and they have competing agendas. So when we have that, right? So for example, I have that with a federal client right now. And you have to do a lot of navigating and a lot of, making sure that we're all on the same page. And sometimes you have to become the salesperson and the mediator and the babysitter and the person who is, somebody that can be the trusted advisor, right? So you have to wear a lot of hats. But I think if we could get back, actually, I think that was something probably more in the early 2000s, maybe back in the 90s, where the decision maker also had the power of the purse strings. That would make my life easier. But yeah, that would be our thing.
Yeah, over the years things have shifted a little bit, and
Right.
I think you've hit a issue that a lot of people would love to take that magic wand to, right there, because I think it's across the board. Sometimes you're talking to the person and you think they're the highest up, and then they're like, "Oh yeah, but no, I don't make that decision." And you're like, "Oh,"
Right.
you
Right. So
know,
for
But
example,
it's-
we have
yeah,
a partner that would like to bring 1,000 people through our coach training, and they make the decision. They can say we'll put 1,000 people through the coach training, but there is someone that has to sign off on the money, and they haven't signed off on the money yet. So see, it's a tightrope that you have to walk there.
Yeah. And they're not necessarily a person that wants the people. They get it, right? They get all the value that you bring. They know it's going to
Mhm.
be a game changer for them, but they're not the person to explain it to the person that needs to sign off on it. You are. And now it's a process that you get to start all over again. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, that's the way of business. Sometimes we need to cut through that red tape, but I agree with you. That's a great perspective on something that we can go poof and fix. So hopefully, if any of you out there has that answer, and we'll work on that too, we'll solve everybody's problem.
There you
Uh,
go.
so one last question for you, Jay. If we could revisit this conversation in a year, if we could bring you back in a year from now, we're brand new. We're just dropping some new episodes and getting going, and I'm grateful for your time and being a yes and taking this adventure on with us. If we could bring you back in a year, what would success look like for you?
What would success look like for us? I think success would look like we have expanded the team to about a team of 30. We have leaders in all of the divisions. And we have exponentially grown our partnerships, right? So you notice in all of those things, I didn't add a monetary value, right? Like a revenue growth goal or what have you. And we do have those. But I think those things take care of themselves if we have the right partners in the right places and it starts to build on a foundation of growing more and more partnerships in each of these spaces, right? So we have a space in the we work in the social work space, right? So we've got some partnerships there. We love to leverage those partnerships to get more. We've got some in the federal government space. Same thing there. We've got some in the K-12 and higher education space. Same thing. So if we're able to grow those partnerships a year from now, I think we'll be in a great place. And I'll be
Amazing.
excited to come and tell you about it.
I will be excited to hear all about it and welcome that conversation. So yes, absolutely. So can you share with us how we can connect with you for our listeners? How can they reach out to you and meet you, talk with you?
For sure, for sure. So check us out. We're on just about every social media platform at the Academy of Creative Coaching.com. So you can find us there on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, definitely LinkedIn. We are also in Mighty Networks. In Mighty Networks, I would encourage you to search our CEO, Dr. Pamela Larde. Larde is Larde, and you can check out her Epic Joy community. That's a great community where we host, well, she is not only our leader and coaching researcher, but also a joy researcher, right? So there's lots of conversations that she has around joy. And I think you all would enjoy those. And then also our website, academyofcreativecoaching.com. And then finally, one thing that I'll add is that we have a program that we're launching. It's called Coaching for Profit. It is a training and a mastermind. It's a 2-day event, right? It'll be virtual. It's coming up in May.
Nice.
And with this event, you'll see it all over our website, you'll see it all over our social media. What we're going to do is because Heidi has been so gracious to allow us on her platform, we're going to offer you, for those of you that see this only, $500 off. The code is Heidi. And if you will enter that so there'll be a link, whether you see it on social media or see it on our website, there'll be a link there. You'll be able to enter the discount code and you'll be able to attend this event. And the thing that I'll share about the event is coaches come through our program and the education is great and the experience is great. Everything is great, right? But if you don't know how to take that and monetize it, what did you do it for?
Right.
We don't want to waste people's time. So we're going to take it to another level. So we're going to have 6 and 7 figure coaches that are on our team that run flourishing businesses talk about how to grow the business, how to get leads, how to connect with organizations in your area or outside your area, how to talk with people in your specific industry to grow your business. And then we're going to mastermind around your business. And a mastermind is a great tool. If you haven't been a part of one, you will love this platform that we're bringing. So that's what we're doing. We'd love to see you in May.
Amazing. So we are going to be putting that out there in May as we get closer and sharing that. The code is Heidi, and we will, Jay, please send me all that information. I will send it to my email list. We will put it on our social media as well, on top of obviously promoting your episode. But anything we can do to help you support this event, I'm all
Awesome.
about that. So for sure. So the sooner you get it to me, the sooner we can put it on our calendar to make sure that we're promoting it in enough time to support you and getting people there. So thank you so much for being here today, Jay. I really appreciate your time, your expertise, all the value and insight you brought, and sharing your knowledge and your journey with our audience and with us. And for all of you listening, reach out to Jay. He shared his contact information. We also have it in the show notes. But the website is academyofcreativecoaching.com, academyofcreativecoaching.com. You can check out Mighty Networks. That's a platform. I'm on it. I'm going to now join Dr. Pamela Larde's group. What's the community called, Jay?
Epic Joy, the Epic Joy community.
The Epic, oh my gosh, that's amazing. The Epic Joy community. So join that community. It sounds like it's full of fun and joy and happiness where you want to be. And reach out and connect with Jay on LinkedIn. And again, we're going to have all of his social media contacts in his links on in the show notes, as well as how you can join this 2-day event and get $500 off, because that is incredible. You don't want to miss it. It's happening in May. If you're listening to us and watching Jay and I right now on YouTube, please, if you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. Join our community of the Business Growth Spotlight podcast. Leave a comment for Jay below so he can respond. Also, if you're watching or listening to us on your favorite podcast platform, such as Apple, Spotify, or Amazon, or any of the other amazing platforms, please, if you can leave a review, especially on Spotify and Apple, please leave us a 5-star review and leave a comment for us and Jay. And if you found value in what Jay shared today, please share it with people you know. We want to get his message out, his expertise. We're all better together. And the way we grow is through community and from learning from each other. So I appreciate you listening, Jay. I appreciate your time. So thank you so much. If you are wanting to grow your visibility, if you feel like you are stuck in your business and you're like, I need more leads, I need to create more clients, and you know that visibility is you're just not doing what you need to be doing out there, and you're feeling like, what do I need to do next? We have a strategic plan for you, and we can share that with you with our Spotlight to Scale blueprint. It's free. You can download it at thespotlighttoscale.com/blueprint. Go grab it. And again, it's a free download just for you. Again, reach out to Jay, connect with him, and go into Mighty Networks and connect with Dr. Pamela Larde as well, and go to academyofcreativecoaching.com. Thank you so much, Jay, for your time. I'm so grateful. We will see you on the next episode of the Business Growth Spotlight.